GMIHub Online. Today is Studio Talk Day, and tonight's conversation is going to be about production quality. Let's explain that. What exactly does it mean to have your song that has production quality? Now, we've had this conversation before back in March with three different individuals, and they had some great feedback, but that question keeps coming back, so we're just revisiting that question again. What exactly is production quality? And tonight we do have three producers actually that are going to share from their perspective of what is actually entailed to ensure that your music is recorded with the proper production quality. My name is Cheryle Dewick. I'm your host, and with me is my husband, my fabulous husband, and also host for Studio Talk, Darryl Dewick. Darryl?
Hello, how are you tonight?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Are you excited for today's conversation?
I am actually excited for today's conversation because it's one that keeps coming up when I'm talking to a number of different pastors, and we're talking to people in the entertainment industry and radio people are saying part of the reason why some of the stuff isn't happening is because the quality of the music that's coming out is not good enough. Overall, in general, the quality is not where it's supposed to be. We had a couple of people actually make a comment, well, it's not as good as Lauren Daigle, but we can hit on that in a few minutes because not too many people are in the same category as Lauren Daigle.
That's true. That is true. Well, then we're just before we introduce our panelists, let me remind you that if you're watching GMIHub for the first time, first of all, welcome. So glad you were able to join us. If you'll notice that on our page that we have a lot of episodes. We have over 100 and almost 100, over 115, I believe, episodes on there covering many topics related to the music industry. Everything from music business to music tech to songwriting and creativity to musicianship, and even dealing with ministry and how to build teams and so forth. There's a whole slew of information that you would probably want to just have a chance to look over at your own time and just glean from the experts that we've interviewed. I mean, it's been an absolute honor to have the people we have had with us share their knowledge and share their insights. So please take advantage of what of those episodes. And if you like them, of course, like and subscribe and hit the reminder bell so that anytime we go live, you'll get reminded, or you get a chance to kind of tune in, be one of the first in line to tune into whatever we're talking about that particular Monday. We're also available on our social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So you can definitely check us out there. If you really want to know more about GMIHub, definitely go to our website, gmihub.ca, and you can have a chance to read about the different projects we're doing. Also, you have a chance to join the community and take advantage of some of the benefits that we offer. Basically, it's a way of us connecting with you connecting with us. So definitely check that out as well. That's gmihub.ca. All right, how about I introduce our guests?
Actually, Cheryle, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump in for a second. Before we do that, I want to know, those who are watching online, please put in the chat or in the chat area on the YouTube, what you think quality is and what is quality in music. I think that'd be great to start off to see what's going on with that. Back to you, Cheryle.
All right. Well, while you guys are typing that up, I'll introduce our quality producers. First up, we have, I'll do it in alphabetical order here. We have Andrew Horrocks. He's no stranger to GMIHub. We actually had him on several months ago. Actually, I think it's been a long time that we've had Andrew on, and we're so glad he's able to come back on with us. He is the producer of AME Recording Studios out in Kitchener, Ontario. He is also the brains and the talent behind a lot of songs that are recognized on the radio, and also award-winning music as well. He's an award-winning producer. So Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll have to unmute his microphone.
Oh.
And have we got you, Andrew? Have we got you? Yes, we have you.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. And new to our panel, and we're so thrilled to have him, is Oleg. And Oleg, I forgot to ask you how to say it, so I'm going to say your name, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Oleg Golovetski. How did I do? Awesome!
You
Oleg is
did
a music
great.
pro-
Thank you.
yeah. Oleg is a music producer and a sound engineer, originally from England, but he's actually calling in from Greece. Can you believe that? From Greece. How's the weather out in Greece?
It's super lovely, but you can start feeling that September is here. So I'm looking forward to going back to the UK because the same pretty much.
No. Well, we are so thrilled, Oleg, that you're able to join us. Um, and of course, my lovely husband, should we start asking questions so we get this party started?
Yeah, let's get this party started. Do you want to ask
All
the
right.
first one? Or...
Well, yeah, well, you know what? I'd like to ask this question. Like, I'm coming from an artist perspective. And, sometimes I do, like, not just myself, but myself and people like me will present a song and they'll get the message that it's a good song, but it doesn't have the production quality, or the production quality is not good enough. And in the back of your head, like when you hear that, like, what exactly does that mean? Does that, like, what determines good versus bad quality from a production standpoint, in your opinion? Andrew, speak.
In my experience, when you get that response from somebody at radio, they're reacting to one of three things: the quality of the song, the mix, and the vocals. Basically, those three things. If those three things, like, that's simplifying things a little bit, but that's, if those boxes aren't ticked, then you'll get that exact reaction.
Mm. So the
And
mix,
I mean, I could go deeper into those elements, but they they do hold your song up, even though you may have spent $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 on your song. They're still going to hold it up beside that $5,000 Lauren Daigle song.
mm,
I when you hear songs that are from that are coming out of Nashville from big artists like that, they spend on just mixing the song what you would spend on your entire song.
mm,
So, you know, just like a lot of things in life, if you've got more budget, you can dot more I's and cross more T's, and you can, and uh, music is very subjective and very complicated into why we enjoy music. But more often than not, when you've got a little more time and a little more budget to spend on something, you have a good chance of making it better and making it
mm.
more, emotional, more, just better overall.
Right.
It's not always the case, but there's a good chance if you've got more to work with.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. Oleg, this is good. I'd love to hear your perspective as well. What constitutes
Well,
that good and bad? Go ahead.
yeah, so I think I have to agree with Andrew on the three aspects that whether the radio or well the world is seeking for is definitely a good songwriting. So whether the songwriting is good, meaning that you've got a good structure, song, it's repeatable, it's catchy, it works, and then obviously mixing allows the music to sound great, and whether the vocals are hearable, which is obviously part of the mixing process, and the recording and all of that. Um, I guess that's right. Yeah, whenever you hit those three as your target, maybe, then that's probably a success. You can count it as a success. The only thing I might, um, it's not that I don't really disagree. I 100% agree with the bigger the budget, the bigger you can spend it on working with the right team. But I think as soon as you get the right team, it doesn't have to be as big in terms of the budget, because I've proven in my experience, and my experience is less than probably what Andrew has, is that you can achieve great quality results working with the equipment, the um, with what you have at your disposal, if you're doing it right, if you know what you're doing. And I think not many people just do enough homework in order to research what they're actually capable of with the equipment. Set Having that, I understand you're just starting out and you have no experience. The best way to invest into the quality would be starting with I guess, the budget and the relationship with the people. So I guess yeah, that's what I'd say for sure when it comes to good quality for music.
Yeah, I guess adding to what Oleg said there, sort of bringing in that other type of person into the conversation, where they're trying to do it at home. Obviously, there's the, recording has changed in the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Anybody with a laptop, a good, anybody with a Mac and a great microphone, or even a okay microphone, can make a hit record. Like it's possible. It's not impossible. And so there is a whole group of people out there that are wanting to, they don't understand. It's kind of like they do it themselves. They're doing all the right things. They're using all the great samples, all the great drum programs, all the they do everything right. They're using auto tune. But how do they take that self-made production and get that played on radio? That's really, really hard, because the experience, it's that old cliche, do something for 10,000 hours and you'll start to get good at it, right? Um, Even though the equipment and the technology and the programs out there get you really, really close, because there's not a lot of spots on the radio that are available spots to be played. Radio is looking for any little thing that's not quite as good enough. And it could be as simple as, say, somebody who's young at mixing or whatever, and they just put a little too much reverb on the vocal. Even that little thing of just a little too much reverb can throw a radio guy off and make him think, oh, there's something different about that. Even though they might not be able to articulate it, they might not, if they could just say, oh, your vocal is just a little bit too wet, dry it up a little bit, and yes, we'll play your song. Nobody's going to say that. It's not going to happen. They're just going to take your finished product, because they'll think that this is basically as good as it's going to get, and this is as good as you can do. And even that simplest little thing, like the too much reverb on the vocal, or too less, or if you're So anyway, it depends on who we're talking about. But if you're wanting to get on the radio, I would recommend taking your tracks, even if you do it all at home, and it could sound really amazing, and if you do it in your bedroom and you do it all right and you're really musical. But do yourself a favor and try to get it mixed by somebody, even if you can get it like 90% there. Try to get somebody who's got some radio track, had some of their songs on the radio. Get it mixed by somebody who can help you. Sometimes when I'm getting files from people that they've done at home or done more, with a smaller budget, I call it fixing and mixing. So when I'm working, so I'll get files and because I'm a producer, I'm always hearing all the little imperfections that, I can improve that just a little bit. I can improve that a little bit. If I add a tambourine here, or if I put a loop here, or, if I mute this here, it'll just make it a little bit better. And so anyway, yeah, and I guess that's why I said the mix part of it is a big deal.
Are there like any standards that producers need to follow in order to ensure that these that the songwriting, that the vocals, that the mix is the way it should be for radio or any other, I guess, platform that the songs will be played on? Is there any written or unwritten rules related to that?
No.
Not really? Oh,
I wish that there would be.
there would be?
Yes.
Well,
Well, probably there are some rules in terms of the mastering the sound. So there
Yeah.
are some, the loudness, right? So you you can go onto Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, probably go into the radio websites requirements and see how loud you want their music to sound during the streaming, and you can hit that. But in terms of the songwriting or even mixing, I would say that there isn't a spreadsheet where it says this is how you hit the drums in your rock song or like in your country song, and this is what it's supposed to be. There's no like a law about that.
mm,
So that's the beauty of it at the same time, because you can go crazy experimental with the sounds, and that's why you bring new in I call innovations, but they're actually not, because so much things already happened before. But um, yeah, you can be really creative when it comes to um, not going along the traditional ways of writing music and still sound relevant and towards the genre. One of the things I teach when I speak to people or say that in order to write a great quality song, it doesn't have to come from your equipment or just the mixing. It starts with knowing the genre. When you know the genre and all the, sort of set standards of that genre, then you can be super creative and start breaking those standards. Um, and that's how you can probably get great, amazing results as a songwriter. And then if the songwriting is done great, then the mixing should be easy. Sorry, when the songwriting actually is done great, then the recording, if you can get a really great, amazing recording engineer, you can record really well. And then everything else follows, like mixing and mastering follows in the same sort of pattern. And the result should be great. But yeah, as I wish there would be like a spreadsheet that I turn to, and just this is how you do it, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, and just click the buttons and there we go. That's your amazing, great radio song.
oh my goodness. Where's the formulas when you want them, right?
There's still, educating yourself and learning is, as soon as you think you know everything, or as soon as you kind of stop learning, that's when you're in trouble. So learning about music and mixing and making records, it's a lifelong endeavor of learning. I can sit in a room with you know, a young 16 or 17, 18-year-old musician and learn stuff, even though I'm not that young anymore. and but you know, I always think that you know, that you should, if you want to be good at anything in music, you basically just need to be a student your entire life, and strive to you know, to just get better at your craft. You know, and I mean, I totally agree with Oleg in the sense that everything starts with a good song. If you don't have a good song, everything becomes difficult as you go through. And so, what is a good song, right? That's therein lies the question, and that's a tough one. So there's things you can, you know, read books, read find great songwriters and learn their songs and figure out what they did. You know, if you're trying to do it all in your head just with what you know and you're not learning, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. I remember Carolyn Aarons. I remember this. I talked to her about this quote that she said one time, and she said she didn't make up the quote, that she stole it from somebody else. So that I thought that was funny. But basically, she said, and this will show you my age, but she basically said the Beatles wrote 90% of pop music, and we're all trying to write the last 10%.
Oh,
So
wow.
all that means is just there's you know, there's lots to be learned by looking at a catalog of a group and some songwriters that wrote some really successful songs. You know, I think I was at a Lincoln Brewster seminar one time at a festival, and somebody asked him what the what the you know, what the secret was to becoming good or as good as he was, and he said to everybody, learn Beatles songs. That was his only suggestion, you know. So anyway, I know that kind of uh, uh, maybe it doesn't make sense for a lot of people who are doing music that doesn't relate to Beatles song, but it's the concept that I'm more interested in.
So what you're saying is learn the best of the genre that you're wanting to be involved with. So if you're wanting to
Well,
be punk, you'll listen to the best punk guys that are out there. Or if you're wanting to be hip hop, you learn to listen to what the top hip hop guys are doing and try and reiterate it just a different way.
yeah, learn from it for sure. I remember when I heard um, um, the like a Bethel record. I forget what the like just talking about the worship genre for a second. I remember hearing that Bethel record that they did where the video part of it was on. They were on a hill, uh, and as the sun went down, you know, they played all the songs. Do you know the one I mean? That record.
Yeah, that's where they
That
introduced Raise a
reminds, yeah,
Hallelujah, I think.
Like that was anyway. It had you know, Jesus We Love You. It had, I mean, it had you know, 6 or 7 huge songs that we all sang in church, and I mean, I remember yeah, and you know, there's something to learn from that record, from those you know, they did some really groundbreaking things on that album. And so yeah, so like you're saying, Darryl, if you're genre specific, then you better know what the best of the best are doing as far as
right.
songwriting goes. So
And even now, and nowadays, the one thing that I'm learning, especially when I'm out in the field doing the live, because that's where I'm normally out doing stuff, is how many of the guys are grabbing stuff from the other genres, from the best of the other genres.
yeah.
Well, they're
Hey,
collaborating. They're
one
kind of
thing.
mixing their genres.
Yep.
Hey,
Go ahead,
just
Andrew.
something very practical as far as a mix suggestion goes. You know, when you're I this is something, again, I heard this from this producer. His name's Steve Lillywhite, and when he's mixing, he will he listens to the bass drum for probably, you know, as long as it takes before that's feeling just right. And then he'll listen to the bass guitar or the snare, and then he'll listen to the lead vocal, and he'll work with those four elements: kick, snare, bass, and lead vocal. And his idea was, I'm going to make a hit song. I'm going to make this song sound like a hit song with just these four things. How can I do that? So what he's doing is he's focusing on the building blocks of the song. Because if you screw up the kick, if you screw up the snare, if you screw up the bass, or the vocals are too quiet or too loud, you kind of failed in your song. If your guitars are a little bit quiet or keyboards are a little bit whatever, less people are going to notice that stuff than if those four building blocks aren't perfect. So anyway, that's just a little mix tip that, when you're mixing your song, focus on your building blocks first and get everything about those as perfect as you can, and then add those other textures and elements in. That, anyway, it's not going to work for every genre, but it's just a interesting way of starting to look at a mix.
That's actually pretty good advice.
I actually heard the same thing.
Andrew, a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, we'll let you do that just one time.
Okay, thank you.
Multiplied by 7. Go ahead, Oleg.
So, Andrew, whenever you're producing for yourself, as in for your own project or for your own songs, do you mix your own stuff, or do you entrust someone else just because you're involved into the process from the very beginning? And would you say, if you do, that's a good practice, or in your experience, that's not a good practice?
I think everybody is a little different that way. I knew that. So I knew that when I was learning music. So I went to Humber College. So I studied jazz and studied music, kind of contemporary music, and I knew that I wanted to be in a band and write songs and wanted to be an artist. And but I knew that I wanted to be involved in the recording process. I knew that if I was in a studio with people, I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to be able to be involved. I didn't necessarily want to do everything myself, but I just wanted to be part of the recording process. So I went to a recording school and I studied recording at Fanshawe for a couple of years, which is a good college in Ontario. And so I kind of went into it a little different, kind of like as much an artist as I am a engineer and producer kind of thing. It's all sort of a same thing for me, but it's a good question because in general, not everybody's going to follow that sort of path, right? There's real wisdom to collaboration. And gosh, I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I did in my career without collaboration. Holy smokes! I've got, I could tell you, 6 or 7 musicians that I've worked with and maybe been mentored by, or collaborated with, and I rode on their coattails big time. and a lot of some of the records that I've done, I'm the producer, but I have a team of people that I'm working with that make me look good. So, I can do things by myself sometimes, but collaboration is amazing, absolutely amazing, and really important. And sometimes you do have to get out of your. Again, I really believe in that thing of, if you're going to record stuff at home, you're in this little fishbowl. You should get somebody else to help finish it for you. So somebody to mix it and fix it and tweak it a little bit with your involvement. You don't kind of give away your hard work. You're being smart about it by inviting somebody into the process who's got some track record.
Out of curiosity.
Yeah, that's awesome, because what I found out is the quality comes from a great relationship. And I think what most of the people are now are trying to achieve is, as you said, try to do everything on your own. But if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
a great relationship with people who you can entrust with your project, that means you're trying to hold on to something that is not really viable in that sense. So, for me, when it comes to producing my own stuff, uh, I think it's the best practice for myself to allow someone else into it. And as you said, Andrew, it just creates more relationship with someone who you can then you know trust in the later sense, in the later
Yeah.
journey, and eventually have a great team that, as you said, makes you look good. And that's the beauty of it, of being surrounded by like-minded people, is that you're not stuck on your own, and whenever you need someone to get you to that quality that you're trying to achieve for, you
Mhm.
can call someone up and say, look, I'm struggling here, and surely they will come up and help you. And for me, there was a turning point when I've tried to do everything on my own, when I've tried to mix my own stuff, when I've tried, because what the reason why I'm asking your own music is I work for a great range of clientels over the world, and whenever I work for someone who's entrusted me with production with their song, it seems for me so much better. I find that I get better results because I have my production head and my engineering
Mhm.
head at the same time, and I can just do things surgically. But whenever I'm trying to work on my own written song, right? So
Mhm.
it's just too. I'm too in ahead,
Mhm.
that's for sure. And it seems that I get stuck on the things that shouldn't matter.
Mhm.
Especially when I work on my client song, I breeze through some of the things, but whenever I try to work on my own stuff, I just get stuck so much. So that's where this allows me to expand and learn from others when I entrust them with my work, and you get obviously an amazing deal of feedbacks. And you know um, being in London allows me to go into different places and meet different people, and it's amazing. But when pandemic happened, well, you don't need to leave your house in order to gain the same things.
Mhm.
It's obviously nice when you can go out into a nice studio, like Metropolis, one of the studios that I visited, just super great. But like they also do remote work, and that's the beauty of it, having no need to actually leave your room, yet still collaborate, still achieve the results when you're working on your own project. And I think when people have no purpose in a song, that's when that's when it becomes a burden in a sense. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
because if the song doesn't have, if you're just trying to come up with something innovative that doesn't really have the end goal, i.e., being on the radio or being played on the broadcast of
Mhm.
a, I don't know, song service, sorry, church service, or being, sorry, it's a little too late for me to form my thoughts properly, but it needs to be, every song needs to have a purpose. And I think what most people are trying to achieve right now, I'm just gonna sit, get inspired by a view, and just start writing. Well, I wish that people like Ed Sheeran and all of the other amazing, successful artists could just tell you that that's how they write, but that's not. They actually go into the studio, they lock the door, and they work, and they probably write 5 songs a day, 10 songs a day, and maybe only one of them will be okay, and then they do it day after day after day until they actually find something. So I believe that songwriting itself, it should be structured, it should have a purpose, and it should be a repeatable process that you can repeat, because then you can achieve the same results later on, not just now. And with you bringing up the examples previously about writing a hit song, uh, or like, kids being able to do it from their homes to write hit songs, is you've done it once, can you do it again? That's the main question that I think people should be asking themselves. Am I good enough to, or like, am I skilled enough at this point to do it again? Because if you just repeat the same thing, it just might not work. So yes, here is my just take on it.
That's a great chat on the songwriting. Now I'm going back to those 3 points, and now I'm going,
Yeah.
well, now let's talk about vocals and vocal mix. Like how do we get quality out of that? What are some tips related to that?
Well, I have a little story about just I have a friend who fairly young guy, and he's an up and coming producer, and I know he's got I did an album with his band one time, and and he was always really interested in producing and recording himself. So I checked out something he produced the other day, and the good drum sounds were great. The bass sounds great, guitars sounded pretty good, and keyboards all sounded good. And then the vocals came on, and the person was a good singer, but it just sort of stopped me in my tracks, because I'm hearing out of tune stuff and hearing like the vocals were just not sitting right, and they weren't EQ'd quite right, and it wasn't, the vocals were just not hitting that level of professionalism that's going to get them to be accepted sitting beside Lauren Daigle. It ain't gonna happen. It's just, yeah. So how do you record a great vocal? That starts with a great microphone, a great preamp, and then it starts with kind of the relationship between the two people who are involved, the singer and either the engineer or the producer. Yeah, you can record your vocal at home on your own and stuff, but and that's quite a viable way of working. But having that interaction with somebody who can help you and encourage you and coach you and be honest with you and help you through things that are because a whole vocal is, the vocal's got to be solid from top to bottom, and that's pitch, that's tone, that's emotion. And I have met very, very few people in the last 35 years that could pull a pro vocal off within 3 takes. Putting it together, taking 3 takes and having something that was good enough for a lead vocal, maybe 2 people out of hundreds of people. Most people need to get, and the songs it depends on the song too. Some songs are really hard to sing, and you need to have a run at those tough songs, and so you've got to get enough songs, enough takes done, quality takes, that somebody can kind of piece it together, and yeah, it's a process. It's a thing that you just don't learn overnight, you know. And I can remember lots of times when I'm starting working and the singer's great, and I can tell that within 3 or 4 takes something's got to happen if this is going to work, right? And so you've got to get them to, one time I was working with this singer, and I had to stop them from singing and say, "Come on in here. Let's just listen to Adele. Okay, let's just listen to a couple of Adele songs, and let's just think about how she approaches and how she breathes and her tone, and just let's just chill, grab a coffee, and just absorb ourselves in this Adele world for a moment." And then that person went back out there with that inspiration, and they sang it completely different. They were able to get where they needed to go. So just because you're a good singer, and just because your equipment's good, just because your microphone's good, if you're not in the moment and you're not relaxed and you're not breathing, and you're just not going to do as good a job as you might, right? And when I'm saying this, I'm also admitting that person leaves my studio, and I work on their vocal for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, as long as I have to make them look as good as they need to look, and solve problems, and find, this was a little weak, this one line was a little weak, so I'm going to add harmony to this line, I'm going to get them to come back and do a double there or whatever. But it's this process of problem solving, and making sure your vocal is absolutely as good as you can get it, because that's going to be the main thing. And harmony is another thing. I've worked with people who have been the lead singers in bands and been singing for 10 years or 20 years, and they don't know how to sing harmony. They don't know the notes. They don't know the rules. They need help, and you just guide them, and it's part of the learning process, teaching process. But then I work with, there's probably I could tell you maybe 5 different female artists, mostly females, that I've worked with, where their favorite part of the whole project process is singing their harmonies, and they're really good at it, and they know the rules, and and we have a lot of fun doing lots of fun harmonies. So yeah, so there's no easy way, Cheryl, to talk about the vocal thing. It takes time and hours and patience and inspiration, and you might be singing in the wrong key. That's all part of the pre-production thing. Make sure the singer is singing the song in the right key, and it starts there, right?
I'm going to jump in on this. I'm sure,
ahead,
Cheryl,
Darryl.
you got something to say about the vocals, with bringing in a coach or somebody in there to just work with you. Did you have a comment on about that? Or
I literally was just going to say the value of bringing in a vocal coach. Because I personally haven't had that opportunity, but I know that based on what you were saying, Andrew, I was just thinking, if a vocal coach was right there to actually say, um, you're not hitting the note, or you probably need to, step back, let's breathe, or let's try this exercise, and what are you trying to achieve, and try to coach a person to realize whatever it is that they want to imagine, what that they want their output to be. That's probably would be of value, to actually have a coach in the studio to help you out. But kudos to the producers who can do this, like who can actually say, okay, you need some inspiration. Okay, let's listen to Adele, or let's listen to this other person to see if we can kind of get something going. And anytime we have conversations about quality, I do realize this, that because of the, I guess, subjectivity of it, that when we ask the question, what is quality, or what do you mean by quality? A lot of the times the answer is, well, listen to XYZ artist, or is there an ABC artist that you really like? What is it that you like about that artist? And try and either mimic or try to extract that good stuff and apply that good stuff to what your project is all about. That seems to be the general answer that we're getting. But even through that, like what I'm really appreciating in these comments is a little bit more of the, get the right microphone, get the right make sure you have the right tone, make sure you have the right harmonies, and so forth. So I'm really appreciating those messages as well. And I was going to ask, like, for yourselves, like, are there any projects that have you ever done any projects where you've done the whole work, everything? You've worked with the artist, you've produced or mixed the song, and you've given it to the artist to do what they do with it, to show it off or to present it to a radio station, and somehow it comes back that it wasn't a good enough production quality. Has that ever happened to either of you? And if so, what was your reaction? And, how did you deal with that after all those hours? Oleg, we'll give
Oleg?
you a chance too. I'll give you a chance to speak because you look like you're going to fall asleep.
Oleg, wake up.
No, I'm actually listening and enjoying this. I think there's just a slight delay to my reaction. Uh,
Mm,
sorry, in terms of the internet bandwidth, that's why I'm reacting so slow. So with me, never happened, and I take steps to avoid that. Whoever orders a song, I take them pretty much all the way throughout the process. So if I work directly with a label, whoever comes from the label um, or towards me and asks me to work for them, I take them with me throughout the whole process, and they get to see the song evolving from whether that's from scratch, whether that's from whether that's I'm taking from someone else, then taking it, I don't know, to the mixing process. Um, so, or whether that's an independent artist. The best way to make sure that you deliver what people expect from you is to take them with you. Otherwise, you might end up in a situation where you've done so many hours, and when you give it back to them, they just not really pleased or happy. And I personally believe that my job as a producer is to deliver the vision of the song and of the songwriter. If I start taking the steering wheel of the ship myself, I might end up being in a very far worse situation than just having a bad feedback. I just either might not be asked to do the job again, or or being asked to do, I don't know, whatever, for the money back, or might get a very bad reputation, which I don't want to happen neither for the artist, because I don't want to get their baby as a song to 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 be disturbed in a way.
mm,
So whenever I worked with anyone, my top one priority is to deliver their vision. And if I'm not in line with that vision initially, if I don't understand the project, or I can't deliver what they asking me, for example, it could be a Dolby mix, which I don't do yet, and I should be. Eventually, I will. I just recommend something else. But yeah, it's a good question, and but it did not happen to me, fortunately, and I don't really want to be in that position ever.
I'd feel the same way. Andrew, has that ever happened with you or no?
Honestly, just like Oleg, I've never had that happen to me, but um, I've had songs that I've believed in, that I've really worked hard on, um, and they and basically the radio person. I guess this is all getting, talking about radio, because when I think, well, I've had radio people who they just don't like the sound of the person's voice. I've heard this comment before, and I agree with this comment. Not everybody should be on the radio. Not everybody should be on the airwaves. There are people who they sound okay, and but they just don't. They don't have that something that radio is looking for. Now that doesn't mean that person shouldn't be making music, and that doesn't mean that person's songs aren't potentially life-changing to someone, and to themselves, and and that they can't have a long career, because trying to please radio only, if that's your thing that you're going to spend your life doing, good luck with that, because you'll be pretty frustrated for the rest of your life, because it's a hard, not everybody's Elton John, and not everybody's Ed Sheeran, and can pull out those magic hit songs. But there's so much more music to be made and to be sung that's beautiful, that doesn't have to follow those radio formulas, and that's beautiful, right? And you might not be able to sing like Adele, but that doesn't mean you're not supposed to sing. So it doesn't mean that you let your guards down and that you're okay with mediocrity, because even if you're an okay singer, there's ways of you coming off as a great singer, and you have to follow that path, and that should be your goal in your life. If you want to be a great singer, you got to work hard. You got to take singing lessons. You talked about a vocal coach. That stuff is super important, that you never stop learning. Just to address a vocal coach in a studio, I'm not really sure about that. I guess
not either.
I guess if you were working with an engineer who can't really produce your vocals, then yeah, you need a vocal coach. But if you're working with a producer worth his salt, that person is gonna have worked with lots of singers, and two people trying to tell one person what to sing is, I've had that experience maybe twice, and wasn't really that fun. That work needs to be done before you get to the studio. So work with somebody who can, where you're doing lessons, you're recording yourself, you're improving yourself in the lesson, you're making a recording, you're going home, you're listening, you're getting better during the week, you go back, you sing with that person again, you work on more details and more details. That's the way that I would work with a vocal coach, unless you need that person in the studio to produce your vocals, because you need somebody to produce your vocals. It's a total different thing when you're, I always laugh. It's just something I've always said, that when people walk out of I'm in the control room here, when they walk out through those double doors and then in to my main room, everybody, and then they put headphones on, everybody gets 25% stupider. And what I mean by that is that it's tough to be emotional and to get everything right and get all your pronunciation right and do everything perfect when you're sitting there with headphones on, because we don't normally sing like that, right? We sing in the air. We hear ourselves sing in the shower, we sing at church, whatever. And yeah, we do sing with headphones on, but there'll be people who have worked their whole life, and then they've never put headphones on. They go in, they try to sing in the studio, and they've got headphones on, and they're trying to sing the best thing in their life. And it's really funny, because it's just kind of ludicrous, right, when you think about it. So
I can relate to
if
that.
I can just quickly, I can just quickly add to the vocal points, actually. The best vocal that I've produced were when we've had the most great time with a vocalist in the studio.
yeah.
But it doesn't come easy, because the problem with having the best time, some people might consider it the fun times. Actually, I've worked with someone like 10 times already. Like, we've done like 10 songs, and every time they come into the studio, their mood, their attitude is super fluctuating. Like, you can never guess how they're going to turn up. So I always, as a person who produces the song or the vocals in that moment, I'm trying to become their friend and try to make them feel that they can trust me. Thing that, you know, the vocalist, when they sing in front of someone, they pretty much getting, you know, exposed, because us as producers, we hear all the imperfections and we're trying to make them perfect. So whenever they feel that they can trust me with them being imperfect, that's when the best results come out,
Yeah.
honestly, because they allow you to shape them in a way that they don't even know do, you know.
Mhm.
And if you can just have this super close, trustful relationship from the first place, whether that's having a coffee before you go into the shoot, that's having an amazing chat about them, you know, about how the day went, or about something that happened, or maybe whether, I don't know, whether something happened with the family, when they can open to you in a way that they can trust you, that's when you get the best results, and that's when you start having the best time, because as soon as you just have this connection, like the things you ask them, they do it is just mind-blowing. So that's where I get all excited and, you know, pumped up. They can hit the notes that they couldn't before. They can, you know, do vibrato, you know, in a perfect way, you know, and etc. So for me, that's the best tip I can give for anyone who is either an artist going to the studio, is try try to be friends, or, you know, for the producer, try to be friends, or like at least someone, because that's where you're gonna get exposed either way, whether you're a producer, because you're gonna be guiding them, and your tone is super important. The way you're guiding them, if you super hard, nobody wants to work with you, and they get closed up, the vocal, the throat gets too tense, and they can't, you know, sing properly. So like the attitude, the relationship, the moment, everything has to be in a proper way. Obviously, if the singer is just, you know, if you throw in an auto tune there, you know, to the maximum, and it's a, you know, type of the song where you don't really expect anyone to, you know, recreate Elton John in a way, then probably that's where you don't need to, you know, invest so much time in trying to understand them, and, you know, give them a cup of tea with a lemon or whatever is suggested. But you know, I mean, that's in my humble opinion. Or maybe if you want, you can still be friends, but um, I mean, it's still going to work better if you this sort of open relationship with each other in that moment.
Trust. You're talking, yeah, you just have to, you're talking about trust, right? Because
Yeah,
a singer's not going to do their best if they're not relaxed, and if they don't feel like they need to know that you're like that, basically in that moment you're their biggest fan, and that you're in their corner, and you're wanting this as much as they want it. As much as they want to do a good job, you want them to do a good job. And you know, yeah, yeah, you're totally right. Like it's all about that, isn't it? You know, just relationship and uh and tea, basically, if you'll
Yeah.
forgive me.
Hey, I love tea too, so hey. um, One last question. Like I know we've kind of I think I kind of get the idea that this is not the case, but when we again, like what I was saying before about people, when you ask about quality, they kind of draw examples from particular artists or artist groups from different places. I thought they would all come from the US, but it sounds like it's from anywhere around the world. But do you think that good quality produced songs are determined by where the song is going to be played? Where, for example, we talked about a lot about radio, and radio is kind of that I don't want to call it the beast, but it's that entity that everyone's trying to please. versus playing online or playing on a live performance, or even for a song to be on a film or a movie, like syndicated that way. Do you think that good quality produced songs are determined by where they're going to be played?
I just think whenever you do a song with anybody, you need to have a plan from the beginning. What's the purpose of this, doing this song? If this song is just so you can play it for your grandma and your dog Spot, then you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you can have fun and just do it, get her done. But if you want it done on radio, then you have to take care of business, and you have to just know what, kind of research what the expectations are. If it's, yeah, I just think that if it, that when you record with anybody, you have to have that conversation, and that has to be very clear what you're trying to achieve. Do you want this on the radio? Do you not want this on the radio? Is this an album cut? Is this a worship song that you're wanting to see people play in church? Those have different trajectories, right? As work. So just make sure you're doing the right thing, and you're making the right decisions, and have a plan. Don't just start doing it.
Right.
Yeah. As I said before as well, it's each song should have a purpose. If it doesn't have a purpose, you probably gonna end up staying home for way longer than you should, or maybe you're just gonna give up on it too quick. And that's why it's really important to. I mean, I understand that. Because I promote radio quality when I promote my sis, get your radio quality song done here and there, and get the best results. Unfortunately, people, I think that they're trying to get too well, what's the right way to say it? Basically, they get with just trying to achieve that quality, or they stuck in the process for too long, rather than just get it done, then reflect on it later on. It doesn't have to be released, and then use it as a building block at some point, and then just go and create another one until you get there. And I said this in the beginning, I don't think that enough people do their homework in order to get to where they want to be. And if you're trying to achieve something amazing when you just started out, you can either be purposefully super blessed, or you're just being super lucky, or it just so happened. Well, I don't believe in coincidences, but for sure, if you don't do your homework, it's going to be tough for you to expect amazing results. And if the song has a purpose to be on the road, as Andrew said, you're probably going to end up frustrated eventually, but if you keep consistent, you will get there, that's for sure. If the song has a purpose of being in a church, or being played at the at the show, then there are ways that you can get there. It's just you need to do research. I was talking to someone not long ago. How do you sell a song? And someone just asked me, how do you sell a song? And I told them, how do you sell a house? If you do your research, if you don't go into that market, into that area, see the prices and etc., you don't know who you're going to sell your house to. The same with a song. If it has a purpose, if it has a genre, if it has a melody, the vocals, or if it doesn't have a vocal, maybe it's an instrumental. What's your And the very simple things like, your market, the understanding of how your song is being made and what's the purpose of the song, then you can go and, instead of going to the radio, maybe go to the website that promotes this sort of genre. I was working on the.
It's like we temporarily
We
lost him
temporarily
there.
lost them.
He'll pop
Okay.
back in soon.
Yep. So I'm going to jump on
Hey.
this one.
Okay.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh,
I was going to completely steer the questions away.
No, I wanted to just sort of just address one practical thing with Cheryl as far as the kind of comparing, like, quality and comparing songs and stuff. When I'm working on, like, if I'm kind of closing in on finishing a song, and I'm doing a mix, and I know a lot of people do this, but I'm just kind of reminding people about this. If I'm mixing a song, I listen to it, in my studio, but I also I put it on a CD or on a playlist. I like CDs rather than off the phone, because you can't sort of tell sometimes the quality off your phone. But anyway, I put the song on a CD, and I have, I'll have, if it's a female vocal and it's like an Adele kind of thing, well, I'll have an Adele song, I'll have a Lauren Daigle song, and I'll have a few other songs that I know. Like, I know this one song has amazing bottom end to it, so I'll put that on the disc, and I do all my listening in my car with that, and then I'll take it upstairs to my upstairs stereo, do the same. I listen on my phone, and I don't just listen on headphones. So I'm trying to be very practical, comparing to those songs that that are successful. It's really important that when you put your song beside a Lauren Daigle song, that you're not only adjudicating your song sonically and engineering and production wise, but is your vocal as in tune? Is it as emotional? Is it moving like that? And sometimes you need to get out of the studio, because sometimes everything sounds good in the studio because the speakers are so nice and it's where it's fun to listen to music. But it isn't until you get outside in your car that you start to hear things and expose. And I always encourage all my clients to do the same. Listen to your song in all the places you listen to music, and compare it and make sure it's up to snuff. So anyway, that's just a little practical thing to help with getting quality.
Beautiful.
Oleg's
Beautiful.
back.
Yeah.
Oleg, where'd you go, man?
My connection keeps dropping out. It just happened whilst I was talking.
That's so good. Well, I'm going to ask a question because it's studio talk, and we usually talk about tech stuff, and we really haven't touched that at all today. So I know everybody says, I can make a professional recording with an SM58 and my little Behringer mixer that I stick into my laptop. But the reality is, at a certain point, that's not enough quality. What is really needed for a proper quality gear-wise? We'll just keep it fairly quick, fairly open. I'll start with you, Andrew.
I can only tell you what I use. I have my two. I probably have three good vocal microphones. One's a Neumann U87. It's a very industry standard. It's probably like a $3,000, $3,500 microphone. I have a Rode Classic 2, which is also $2,500, and I've got a Telefunken AK-47, which is a hilarious name, but so I've got a few options for people. Some of those microphones sound better on female than male, but usually they'll all sound good on vocals. Well, one thing that's really, 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 really important is how far they are away from the microphone. And you've got to train people when they're singing that just how to do it correctly. If you've got a person who's like, a foot back, and they're closing their eyes and they're facing off into the corner, you lose all the tone and the warmth of the vocal. So you've got to train people to they can groove, they can move around when they're singing, but they got to keep their feet planted. You find your spot, and if you've got a quiet passage on the mic, you can lean in a little bit, maybe a couple of inches, and it sounds a little more intimate or whatever. And yeah, you can sort of lean back a little bit if you're belting something out, but don't move your feet. Find a way of working a microphone. So I guess you got to have a quality microphone, but you have to sing correctly on a microphone. So what I use as far as preamps go is, let's see. Oh, you probably can't. This is a Avalon 747. It's like a $3,500 tube preamp. It's really good. I've got a couple of other tube, expensive preamps that work well. Usually, you get what you pay for as far as microphone, like signal path for vocals, right? So, not that you can't do it the other way, but getting it into your computer with a beautiful warm signal, then you can do anything with it. Once it's in your computer, then the world is your oyster, right? There's so much power in the computer to shape the sound of vocals. So, and here's that Adele thing again. Sorry, I talked a lot about Adele, but listen to that last song she did, that hit song that she did with it's just piano and her vocal, and there's some bass drum and some bass guitar or something, and that's it. And her vocal is the sound of her voice, the way they've got it EQ'd, the way they've got it compressed, and even with, there's probably a little bit of saturation, a little bit of, like, there's some real brilliance to the technical way that they have her voice sitting. So I forget what that song's called. It'd be easy to find it.
Easy on Me.
Yes. Just listen to Easy on Me, just for like, wow, just to be wowed as far as what a voice can sound like. And you got to know that's a beautiful microphone, a beautiful preamp, a great singer singing properly on the microphone. All the boxes are ticked on that guy. So anyway,
what about speakers?
I have I have the ones I use they're called Adams A7. They have a ribbon tweeter, so they're a little warmer in the top end, but I love them. They're not like they're not cheap. They're not super expensive. They're not like $8,000 Jelinek or whatever, but they're good monitors. I love them. I mean, I've had Tannoys and Yamaha NS10s over the years, and you get used to working on what you like. So just find something that you like, that you have good results on, and run with it. Just stick with it.
Okay, Oleg, same to you. It's normally we talk about gear. What type of gear do you recommend for a quality recording?
I'll start off by saying that the quality of the gear grows with the quality of your writing. I guess we're trying to primarily address songwriters, but obviously me and Andrew are here producers / engineers at the same. So we don't get to participate in a songwriting. I don't get paid in the songwriting too much when at the start, but if you are the songwriter, want to become, all the producer engineer besides, and I would start with something as cheap as you can get, because the quality of the equipment will grow with the quality of your songwriting, because it's gonna start paying off, and you can't jump above your head when it comes to your songwriting or the quality of the equipment. I would say that started, I could not afford anything expensive, yet I was trying to use every single little bit of equipment that I had at my disposal to make the best I can. And then when the work that I've been doing started paying off, then that's where I started to up the game. And so I know that Andrew said the mics that he uses are relatively inexpensive, and for $3,500, I would say that's very, very good microphone. Obviously, Neumann U87, it's a legendary microphone, and but I personally use something like Stephen Slate's ML1 just because of the technology. It's very inexpensive compared to what Andrew uses. It's like $500 when you can get it from the deal. I think they're Christmas deals and etc. What's great about it is that you record and then you can pull up their software to use images of these expensive microphones that Andrew uses. And I like that flexibility, and it works. Surprisingly, for anyone who's asking whether that's actually works, it works, and it works great. So this is something that I would probably suggest you go to, and whatever I don't have any preamps right now, just because in Greece I've got the sound card. So the best one market that I would suggest for an available, let's call it that, would be something from Universal Audio, because their preamp's great, and you get some softwares along with it. So anything from UAD would work really well when it comes to if you don't want to invest into another really, really good preamp, you can start with that. And then for the speakers, I do like Adam speakers, but I like the S series better than the A series, just because I get maybe, as you said, the top end, the ribbon top end is touch a bit too warm for me. So I think I just prefer that full range. And yeah, I still use NS10s as my reference monitors, just to make that they, the mix coming through okay through the mediocre. So, but the best way, I think I got cut off when Andrew was saying, but the best way to do check your quality of the mixes is to grab that file, go into your car, plug it into the stereo, and just if it makes your head move inside that car, you've probably done a great job. If you want inside your car, you've probably done an amazing job.
I have a question, Oleg. There's a British microphone. There's a company. I think they're called Ashton or something like that. Do you know?
Oh,
do you know
Aston,
that?
Aston, yeah, Aston.
Yeah. So I've turned a couple of my clients onto that microphone because it's pretty. They make one that's, I think it's like $400, and then there's one that's $500.
Yeah.
And they're pretty decent microphones. They're a good starting microphone that you can. And I've had a client cut several lead vocals at home. I'm in Ontario, they're in Quebec, and she's cut her lead vocals at home with using that microphone, and it's worked great. So you don't need a $3,000 microphone and a $3,000 preamp. You simply don't. Oh, but I totally agree, Oleg, what you said about the universal audio. But buying a little universal audio interface where you get if you buy the interface, you get the software, and in the software they have models of all these preamps. So they have the software versions of all these really expensive preamps that you can access. So that's a really great way to start. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it just uh, for me, I totally, I guess I'm on a way to just make sure that I've got the access to, these very, very vintage or quite, top end microphones. Just not, but I just seem to find myself having a 500 dollar microphone works really well for me right now, and it's probably due to where I am with my production quality. So, and I believe that eventually, sure enough, I'll pick one of them sevens or U47s if I ever feel like I need one. But I think for those who are listening to us right now, they might have this sort of image that you know, unless you get super expensive, it might just not work for you. But it's gonna grow with you. The amount, the expense is gonna grow with you, with the quality. Like, it's all gonna grow with you if you just allow it to be
Mhm.
natural. Don't try to be more than what you are.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, Cheryl, it is like 25 after 8. I think we've gotten a little longer than our 1 hour that we were thinking that we were going to do. So I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation, to be honest with you. I think I learned a whole lot of stuff that's I didn't expect to learn, which was really, really cool. Um, all about what is creating quality for songs. What are people taking into consideration? And they are taking into consideration the songwriting. They are taking the vocals. They are taking the mix. They are taking, like in terms of the building blocks, maybe just the basic foundations of your song. And if those things are in the pocket, those are the things that keep songs, um, you know, kind of in that quality level. But quality is seemingly based on something subconscious in some ways. But I'm so appreciative of Andrew and Oleg taking the time and sharing their knowledge and their expertise on this particular topic, both from answering my questions from an artist perspective and answering the tech side as well. Thank you both so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you being here. And audience, we thank you for being here. Again, if you enjoyed this conversation, I invite you to like and subscribe and ring that bell so that you'll be notified when we are showcasing another song showcasing. We are putting on another episode of GMI Hub online. Also, please go to our website, gmihub.ca, to find out a little bit more about what GMI Hub is all about. And you have the opportunity to kind of connect with us, join the community, because there are some things that we offer our audiences that you might be interested in. It's our way of connecting with one another. It's our way of celebrating with you any of your live events. If you have release of songs and live events, we want to celebrate that with you and share that with the rest of the community. We have opportunities for artist showcase, and October 31st is our next artist showcase, and it's a special one because we have Weshai and 180 that is going to join us. They're on a Canadian tour right now. I think they're in the West End. They're in Winnipeg right now, and they're just doing a tour right across Canada. They're going to come to the East. They're going to come to Ontario, and they're going to end with us. That's what they're going to do, and we're so thrilled that they're going to join us October 31st. So you're going to want to be a part of that. Now, if you go to gmihub.ca and / the events, now normally we don't charge for the event, but this particular one we do have to charge tickets because of the extra costs that are related to this event. So please go to gmihub.ca, go to our events page, and you'll learn more about how to get tickets for that particular event. And We have compilation projects that's gonna there. We've collected a number of songs already, and oh my goodness, I can't wait. I just can't wait till we're able to release the songs that are coming out. These songs have I say kudos to all the artists that have submitted their music. It just takes that level of quality and excellence up a whole new notch, and I can't wait to have you all hear that. That's not coming out until November, but listen out for it. And if you're interested in learning more about that, maybe even ordering an album, send a message to us at contact@gmihub.ca, and we'd love to accommodate you. And there's so much more that I'd like to share, but I do want to be respectful of the time. Again, we want to thank you for being
As
here.
Oleg's in Greece. He's in Greece. He's what, 3 a.m. there? 3
Is it
a.m.
really?
3:30, yeah.
It's
Dude,
3:30 in the
that's
morning.
insane.
Oleg, you are a trooper. Oh my gosh. Dude, you're such a trooper. Thank you so much for being up with us right now. This is awesome. And we're going to be respectful for Oleg. He has a date with his pillow, so he needs to go to sleep. But again, we're thankful that you came to join us. Be with us next week. We are talking about songwriting. There's been a lot about songwriting this week. Well, next week we're talking about songwriting strategies, and we have Thomas Zasore with us, who's going to be talking to us. But until then, love, peace, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Oleg, ciao, dude. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great conversation.